The arena floor was stained with blood from 100 species. Arya Wynn stood in the center of it, her small frame trembling beneath the weight of chains that were twice as heavy as necessary. General Talcor watched from his observation deck, his three eyes gleaming with satisfaction as the crowd of alien spectators roared their approval. She was nothing. A human child. Barely 13 cycles old by their measurements. Her species had been conquered 3 years ago, when the Kryn Empire swept through Earth's defenses like they were made of paper. Most humans had been exterminated. The survivors? Slaves. Curiosities. Entertainment. "Release the Vex Hound," Thalcor commanded, his mandibles clicking with amusement. The gate opposite Arya groaned open. What emerged made the crowd fall silent for a heartbeat before erupting into frenzied cheers. The Vex Hound was a creature from the nightmare worlds of Sector 9. 8 feet of scaled muscle, razor-sharp claws, and a mouth that could swallow a grown Kryn warrior whole. Arya's chains fell away. She didn't run. She couldn't. There was nowhere to go. The arena wall stretched 30 feet high, smooth and unclimbable. Instead, she picked up the only weapon they'd given her, a rusted blade barely longer than her forearm. The Vex Hound charged. What happened next would be discussed in whispers across the Empire for generations to come. Arya moved, not with the clumsy desperation of prey, but with something else, something the Kryn had never witnessed in their centuries of conquest. She dove beneath the creature's lunge, rolled, and came up slashing. The blade found the soft tissue behind the Vex Hound's front leg. Black blood sprayed across the sand. The creature howled and spun, but Arya was already moving again. She was small, yes. Weak by Kryn standards, absolutely. But she was fast, and she was learning. Each attack taught her something new. Each near miss showed her a pattern. The Vex Hound was powerful, but it was predictable. It relied on instinct, on overwhelming force. Arya relied on something the Kryn had underestimated. Human adaptability. 5 minutes into the fight, the Vex Hound lay dead. The arena fell silent. Thalcor leaned forward in his seat, his expression unreadable. "Bring another," he said quietly. They brought 5 more creatures that day. Arya killed them all. By the 3rd week, they stopped sending beasts. They sent warriors instead. Criminals, gladiators, even decorated soldiers looking to prove themselves. Arya defeated them too. She learned their fighting styles, memorized their weak points, adapted to every weapon they forced into her hands. The crowd began to chant her name. Not as a slave, as something else. Thalcor watched her transformation with growing unease. He had expected her to die in that first fight. Instead, she had become the arena's most valuable attraction. But more troubling than her skill was the look in her eyes. That first day she had been terrified, broken. Now, when she looked up at his observation deck, there was something else there. Calculation. Purpose. Rage. "She's just a child," his second-in-command said nervously. "Surely she poses no real threat." Thalcor said nothing. He had conquered 17 worlds. He knew what a threat looked like. On the 47th day of her captivity, Arya killed her 19th opponent, a Kryn warrior twice her size, and did not wait for the gates to open. Instead, she turned toward Thalcor's observation deck and threw her spear. It shouldn't have reached. The deck was too high, too far. But Arya had been studying the arena's architecture for weeks. She knew exactly where to aim, how much force to use, which trajectory would catch the updraft from the heat vents. The spear shattered the reinforced viewing glass. Panic erupted in the stands. Thalcor stumbled backward, his guards rushing forward. But Arya wasn't done. She sprinted toward the arena wall, using the corpse of her fallen opponent as a springboard, then the embedded spear shaft as a handhold, then the broken glass as a ladder. She shouldn't have been able to climb it. No one should have been able to climb it. But humans, Thalcor realized too late, were exceptional at doing things they shouldn't be able to do. Arya pulled herself onto the observation deck, bleeding from dozens of cuts, her prison uniform torn and filthy. She picked up a fallen guard's weapon, a plasma rifle she'd never held before, and aimed it with perfect precision at Thalcor's central eye. "Do you know what makes humans dangerous?" she asked, her voice steady despite her ragged breathing. "It's not our strength. It's not our technology. It's that we learn. We adapt, we survive. You threw me into hell thinking I would break." She smiled, and Thalcor felt fear for the first time in his military career. "You just trained me instead." The rifle discharged. The rebellion started that night. Arya freed the other human slaves. taught them what she had learned, showed them the weaknesses in Kryn armor and tactics. What began as one child's escape became an uprising that spread through the Empire like wildfire. The Kryn had made a fatal miscalculation. They had assumed that breaking humanity's body would break their spirit. They had underestimated the one trait that had carried humans from caves to stars: their refusal to stay broken. 3 years later, when the Kryn Empire fell and Earth was liberated, historians would debate what to call the conflict. Some called it the human resurgence, others called it the War of Adaptation, but the Kryn themselves, in their scattered exile, called it by another name: the reckoning of Arya Wynn, the girl they had tried to break in the arena, the weapon they had forged themselves, the human who taught an empire that enslaving her species was the last mistake they would ever make.